All right. Welcome, everyone, to another episode of I Could Do This All Day. I'm Dan, the Part-Time Avenger, and with me is Mark, the Resident Jedi.
Hello there. Today is Dan's Retribution Day. If you listen to our last episode, Dan got himself into nothing but trouble by engaging in a Marvel-related bet. He bet on the wrong horse or magician, and he took a big Bleecker Street L. And he had to watch, or we reviewed a movie that Dan really wouldn't stop saying how bad it was. And he complained his way into getting to choose his own bad but great movie for us to review, because really, I don't think any of us want to hear Dan complain anymore. So, Dan, please introduce us to your self-chosen bad but great entry into our catalog of conversations.
It's 1984, and tensions are high. And what way to relieve those tensions than by providing an iconic sex symbol, Nick Rivers, the American rock star. And if you don't know what movie I'm talking about, based off our backgrounds, it's Val Kilmer in the 1984 cult classic, Top Secret. Mark, have you ever heard of this movie before?
I had heard of the movie, never seen the movie.
All right. So on this movie, to give the origin for me, this was a movie that I had never seen the theatrical release, but I had seen the movie on TV multiple times. So this was on WFLD Fox, or I'm sorry, before it was Fox, in the Chicagoland area. I want to say it was on like all the time. There were so many times that this movie was in rotation, and I would watch it every single time that it came on. And finally, because I liked watching that movie so much, I decided to ask one of my family members to just tape it so that way I could watch it multiple times without having to wait for it to be shown on WFLD. And gosh, this movie is such a staple from my childhood. It's funny. It's got just a bunch of ridiculousness in it. And hey, man, Iceman is in it. So that was another great thing. But yeah, I want to say I've probably seen this movie at the very least 25 times. And I had just recently watched it, thank God, because I forgot how great this movie was, or at least entertaining this movie was. But yeah, so let's kind of just go right into it. So Mark, you just recently saw this. Can you give me a little bit of context of how you saw this movie and what type of mood were you in going into it, and did you have any expectations?
I saw this movie once, and it was less than 2 days ago. I sat down to watch it in the evening. I did no research on it whatsoever, so it was just pure reaction. After, obviously we have tendencies like, okay, who wrote this? Okay, who directed it? Like, come on. And after the fact, I did a little bit of that looking, and it all made sense to me then. But for me, yeah, I watched it clean. The only assumption I made about this movie is and pure squirrel moment. Have you ever been to Wisconsin Dells?
Yes.
Have you seen the upside down White House that says top secret on the outside of it?
No, I did not see that hidden gem in
Yeah,
Wisconsin
it's
Dells.
not hidden. It's right on Wisconsin Dells Parkway. But I, for some reason, thought that top secret had some level of like reference to this top secret. And I was like, oh, I'll finally figure out what the fuck was up with the upside down White House. And I didn't, because there is zero correlation, no relation to this. But there was no disappointment from seeing this movie whatsoever, at least in my opinion.
Okay. So if that is the case, the initial impression on, because you have the little clandestine spy battle on top of a train, and you see a little bit of ridiculousness there where like he just goes through a brick wall and he's still standing there, right? But I don't think it really kicks in and you don't get a true understanding of what you're in for until that beach scene. So I want you to walk me through what you thought of that opening scene where everyone is on their surfboards with their shotguns.
I honestly, the beginning of the movie, I was like, really? We're doing like a weird spy theme. Is this Spies Like Us with Val Kilmer? What is going on? And then shotgun surfing sold me. I was like, wait, this is pretty great. And I think at the exact moment that my wife rolled her eyes real hard, I was like, can you believe this? This is great. This is a jam. This is my new bop. Let's go. Um, but I was definitely into it and sat up to watch the entire like scene. Like put down my phone and was like, okay, I can see this a little bit.
It's been like at least, at the very least, I want to say 15 years since I've seen this movie, maybe even 20. And oh my God, I forgot how awesome that opening music montage is, where it's, and the thing is, they do it very, very well. So that's one of the things, like, I like ridiculous things in movies and humor and slapstick. But the fact that they were dead ass serious shooting this beach blanket bingo song with surfboards and they're actually surfing and they're holding up guns shooting shit. I just thought in itself it was shot very professionally, which I was like, there's a lot of movies somewhat recently, like the more recent scary movies, like Scary Movies 3, 4, and 5, which were dog shit compared to 1 and 2, where it's like these people aren't even trying anymore. Uh, they definitely tried in that opening scene, and there's a lot of coordination there. So I really like that. Love the fact that the song itself was catchy, and the fact that you could pick up as to what he was actually singing, and it was just a good time. I thought it was like a very good time.
I agree. I agree. Um, I don't think Val Kilmer sang any of the songs in this movie.
100% false. He absolutely did. He sang every one of those songs.
He sang Wombamaloo Bop.
He sang every single one of those songs.
That
Val
he sang
Kilmer.
in a studio because the lip did not line up, bro.
Yeah. Well, keep in mind too that a lot of movies they
were
did
dubbed.
not.
You're going to tell me that. Yeah,
Yeah.
no, we've heard this. The audience has heard you talk about dubbing before. So it's okay. But yeah, no, I definitely thought that this movie, it got me at that point and just kept going in. That scene had all of the 80s tropes you want, from gratuitous random boobs to people running around like idiots to just campiness and stupidity, all of the things that make a 80s cult classic to me, and all of the things that though my wife didn't dislike the movie, all of the things that she loves to be, she was just like and I think because she knows that I'm like, oh, dig it, oh, there we go, oh, it's that thing again. That the things that you literally kind of like that scene from Scream where they talk about the elements of a horror movie. I could write out like cue cards, and in every 80s movie that I can think of, I could just hold them up and they could hit at any time. We could play 80s movie bingo. Maybe that's a game we should make. Copyright. I can do this all day publishing.
There we go.
But I think that that's, there's something to that this hit all of those tropes
We have kids
in the first scene.
Yeah, right. Like that's one of the things. Like I think we have kids. We should come up with this because we both want to retire early. I think that's pretty clear that we want to do that.
Let's go.
So you talked a little bit before about Val Kilmer, and you're doubting his singing prowess. So Val Kilmer is a very accomplished singer and performer.
Not
And
anymore.
well, hey, come on. But so what did you think about the overall music performances and the use of the songs randomly throughout the movie?
I I don't know. I think there was a lot of racial appropriation in this movie that should have been inappropriate. Um, because he sang all like Little Richard songs, and it was very like none of these are white guy songs. This shouldn't be okay. Um, but Val Kilmer could dance, and he had on his little Beatles boots. He was Elvising it up, just trying to be like, no, no, white people sing like this. It's okay. Was it okay, Val? I don't know.
Some of them
Just
were
be
Elvis songs. I mean, he did the
yeah,
rendition "Are You Lonesome Tonight," but
yeah, but
yeah,
but
man,
most not so much.
the guy can move. So it made me miss Val Kilmer as an active actor because that guy is so freaking good, and he puts his heart and soul into every single role. He really cares about his performances, in some cases to the detriment of his reputation in the movie. But at the same time, this was such a fun movie. And if you could just imagine him rehearsing and really giving his all during his singing performances and stuff like that. And I thought the songs were catchy. They had the normal lyrics, and then he would throw in a few lyrics that just makes the song a little bit funny and goofy. So I totally dug it, and it was catchy. It was a big music video for a lot of it, but fun, very fun. I'm not a big fan of uh, pop music in movies, but hey, I'm hypocritical, and hypocrisy is strong with this one, especially for this movie because it hit all the right notes for me.
I think that we can both fully agree that when Val Kilmer shakes his hips, Danny doesn't care what he's singing as long as he keeps shaking them hips.
Hey, man, I appreciate sex appeal in all forms.
Hmm.
So that dude is, like he was Iceman. Like people wanted him as Iceman. And I think if you ladies just gave Nick Rivers a shot and saw that before Top Gun, you might just be like, hey, that's Nick Rivers.
Nobody says, hey, that's Nick Rivers.
They should.
They maybe shouldn't. They maybe should. No, no. It's funny. Like, I'm aware of pop culture references, like, very aware. And I definitely, like, you know, in prepping for this and basically finding my background and stuff, like there's a bunch of Nick Rivers stuff out there that like t-shirts, hats, all that stuff I've never seen. And I think it's because
I,
everybody can agree that Nick Rivers was not the vehicle that drove this movie. It was the writing, the sight gags, the continuous hilarity that drove the movie. It was not Val.
yeah, but he was a great main character. Uh, such, the American rock star that comes over, and just his sheer audacity. And so let's kind of talk about his character, Nick Rivers. You know, just initially when he's coming over on the train, just reciting random French, or I'm sorry, is it German or French phrases that
It's
he's
German.
German?
I
Okay.
believe it was German. I don't know.
And just the campiness, the inappropriateness of all of his comments is just so funny to me. But even his just sheer audacity and arrogance as an American, where he goes up to sing and he thinks, it's really they're praising the German that's there, and he's just like, I figured this was going to happen, and so he just goes up there and starts performing. It's just a fun little break.
I don't disagree. I this movie reminded me a lot of Mel Brooks as I was moving through it.
Yeah.
And then afterwards I looked at who directed it, and it does not surprise me that this was brought to you by the writer directors of Airplane and Police Squad and the Naked Gun movies, and coincidentally, with your reference earlier, the director of Scary Movie 3 and 4 directed this movie. So it's just it's just a way of it's a unwritten language that we're built to laugh at and that we've been conditioned to, and that's why I like it. It was a throwback that I'd never seen, so it was new, and Nick Rivers fit into that. He was very, Chris Evans in Not Another Teen Movie. He wasn't like, he didn't have to hold up the whole movie because the dialogue and the story did that, but he was good where he needed to be. And I think that's how you work Val Kilmer, unless it's real genius, where, that should be Val Kilmer's Oscar. Or The Saint, another great Val Kilmer performance. But yeah. And I also don't want to short the directors of this movie on another amazing film that they directed, The Basketball.
Did they do that? Oh, they did do that
did
one.
Basketball.
Holy shit.
Yeah. So I've got to say that I didn't know this movie was basically written to make me happy, but it did. It absolutely did. So unlike me, who picked a movie to basically see you rip it apart, you're just going to hear me talk nice about this film because I really enjoyed it. And it was like scene after scene where I was like, no, they're doing the thing. Because again, it's just like, hold up the cue card of random 80s trope. It's there. It's all there. This is an 80s bingo movie.
So this is almost like it's just jam packed with one-liners, references, things happening in the background that you don't necessarily see. And so I love it. It's like there's so many different jokes that, because it's been so long that I've seen this movie, I could just appreciate every single thing, and almost every scene in the movie. You're like, oh my God, that's funny. You're like, oh, that's or you actually
oh
laugh
my
out
God,
loud.
that person.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah,
there are
right?
so many cameos in this movie from people that are or ended up being pretty amazing, movie stars. So really excited to talk through this cast as well. But yeah, I 100% agree.
So let's talk about those cameos that you're like, wait, is that? Oh my God, that is. So what was one of the first ones that you saw?
One of the first ones that just like stuck out to me was Billy J. Mitchell, who was the agent in the movie, only because he was in Goldeneye and died by tightly wound women's legs in a movie that I probably shouldn't have been watching when that movie came out, but loved that and played that video game a ton. So the face just kind of stuck out to me.
And
He
fun
was great.
fact, not even a fun fact because you watched the movie, but the fact that he died by the anal intruder is just hilarious.
He didn't realize that the electric out here was too strong for him to handle. That again is such a nuanced joke.
Yeah, right? Like,
not
why
no,
would you
he
even
wouldn't
make
have
that joke?
normally died from the anal intruder, but man, we have 220 here, and it just got too aggressive. He was fisted to death. The fisting of that's so great. It's hilarious.
God. And the fact that, okay, so I want to talk really quick because he gives like one of the best lines, and he's dead ass serious. And so Nick Rivers is in the German prison, and he's saying like, Nick, I've done all that I've could. I've talked talked to the American consulate, and like he goes down a list of things. I just can't bring my wife to orgasm. It's like, what the fuck? Why is this even in the movie? It's just such a ridiculous, funny frat boy type of dialogue that I just find amusing.
It's so Police Squad and Naked Gun.
Yeah, oh for
It's
sure.
so just they're in their prime at this point. And Peter Cushing being in this,
Dude, the guy from
I'm
the
like,
Death Star.
Grand Moff Tarkin's here. This is great. It's like you must have been really hard up for money at the end of your life.
He looked ancient. Like he looked like he was on death's
I
door.
don't think he lived much longer than this movie.
That might have been his real eye.
Oh, pink eye. Stop farting on Peter Cushing's pillow.
but you have to do it bare ass.
You do. Peter Cushing lived till 94, so
Oh, okay.
we are incorrect. Not his last movie.
Oh,
2 movies after this, a TV movie and Biggles, Adventure in Time, which has nothing to do with Top Secret, but I think the fact that it's called Biggles is really funny.
that is a strange name.
It was all downhill.
Stay tuned for the next episode of I Can Do This All Day. Biggles,
Adventures in Time. Oh,
so
man.
there's one that I was surprised by, and that is Michael Gough, also known as Alfred from the Tim Burton and Joel Schumacher Batman movies.
When he broke in there, my wife's like, great. Who does he run into now? I'm like, Alfred.
So many like just bit parts in this movie that it's like, oh my god, I can't believe there's so many of these people in here. Just so,
but they're all worth it. I'm here for all of them.
Omar Sharif, who is like a really big time actor as well too, previously, and just like Jesus Christ, they really pulled out the big guns for this, and just a lot of fun. We're suckers for nostalgia, and the fact that we can make the connection to Batman, to Star Wars, to James Bond, all in this movie, and they're all having fun, humorous bits in this movie, just make it even more entertaining.
Q was in this movie, wasn't he?
Who?
You said James Bond. Was it Q in this?
Was Desmond? I don't know who he was in the multiple movies, so I'm not sure.
It was Desmond Linsky for a very long time. I don't think he was in this. You said James Bond, and I think I got Q and Alfred confused because in this movie, Alfred is Q. But either way.
No, you're talking about the Billy J. Mitchell guy.
Oh, totally. I made the reference myself. Yeah. Yeah, no. So many good people you forget.
So I want to talk about just the other top billed characters in this movie. So Lucy Gutteridge as Hilary Flamond. I don't think I've ever seen her in anything else. I don't think she has a very long list of acting credits, but I thought she was just a very entertaining, very charming, and her childhood love, Nigel the Torch, the resistance leader, played by Christopher Villiers. Oh my God. I saw him and I was thinking like, oh dude, that's a guy that could be Rocky from Rocky Horror Picture Show. Just a specimen, and wearing the same old shit from the Return of the Blue Lagoon outfit that he was wearing or whatever.
Yeah, that was funny. A total Blue Lagoon rip.
Oh my God. Yeah. And I really like his character because it's just so funny how sexualized he is in that, and how he's telling the story of how he was floating in the ocean for a couple of days and these men on a ship found him, and the story that he's telling, like, I yelled at them and begged them to turn around, but it just seemed to get them more excited. and then Lucy Gutteridge says, like, oh my God, that must have been terrible for you. And she gives him a hug, and he's like, not that terrible.
Maybe not too bad. It's all about the chase.
It was like a adult real life Stewie Griffin, where he just kind of played that. It was really fun.
I enjoyed him as well, and I thought the exact same thing. I'm like, oh, so we're Blue Lagooning. Awesome. Yeah. Awesome.
Yeah. A lot of references, and you can't forget about the resistance group. And I remember this from when I was a kid, and this is how I knew French words, is from this movie. And the fact that they just went down, like, everything just that sounded French was the name of everyone. It's just so good. Latrine, Duquois, chocolate mousse. They had croissants in there as well too. Oh my God.
The chocolate mousse part totally got me.
Chocolate Mousse was the best, man. He
Chocolate
was the
Mousse.
best.
Chocolate Mousse was blaxploited in this movie, by the way, but this was a blaxploitation film in a way, but it was also great. And I also think that Chocolate Mousse was Robert Downey Jr.'s inspiration in Tropic Thunder,
Mm, maybe,
because I
maybe.
mean it's pretty close, man. It's pretty damn close.
So that character, Chocolate Mousse, he was my favorite, and God, there are so many like just things that I remember from him. His deep voice, was the way that he delivered his lines. Just hilarious to me, and the fact that he was dressed up like one of the village people was also very entertaining as well. But I don't know. Apparently, he was in Indiana Jones and Raiders of the Lost Ark, which don't remember him at all.
Really?
That's what he's known for, according to IMDb. But yeah, man, like that character and the fact that there were so many good riffs and quips of dialogue that he was a part of. I thought that was really cool just to be able to see, like, yes, comedy all across the board and slapstick, but he was also the biggest badass out of all the people. He during the gunfight and everything, he fucking picks up the cannon and shoots it out the window.
That
Just a
was great.
badass.
This is such, like, you can tell that these are the same people that wrote Hot Shots. Like, it's just, again, it was just fully in that trope of, oh, look, it's gonna be over the top and ridiculous, but funny.
All right, so that wraps up the cast. Is there any other characters that you thought were really great in that, or any particular scenes with the different characters?
No, I kept going with it, and I loved the locations all had a nostalgic feel to them. Like, I've seen these in other movies, which I thought was hilarious. They used the dining room from Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom. Like, as soon as they showed up in the dining room, I'm like, is this the same place from Temple of Doom? The castle looked almost identical. And I haven't Googled this at all because I literally watched the movie yesterday. But the castle looked like the castle from Monty Python, where the
Mm.
French guys are yelling over the end. Um, so even the sets for me helped them tell that spoof story.
Yeah, definitely spoof. But sometimes spoof gets like a bad rap. But I thought this was expertly done by people who have perfected the crafts. I don't know what the hell happened later on in the 90s and the 2000s. It kind of felt stale to me, but I think everything from the 80s and even 90s were gold from these people, and late 70s with Airplane. But um, what did you think of like your favorite gags? If you could pick like your favorite gags from the movie, what would they be?
100% the underwater western fight.
Oh God, yeah,
And
yeah,
it's not because they did a little bit of it. It's because they did the whole thing. Bottles breaking over people, the card game going on, them fall, like they didn't just do
chandelier
some of it.
falling.
They did
Yeah,
the whole thing. And that was just impressive and commitment to me.
yeah,
Like, I was just like, and again, like the beginning, the surfing scene was good for me, but I'm just like, oh man, they're not slowing down. They're putting the pedal down the whole way, baby. So I was a fan.
yeah, and seeing that now, it was even more impressive because I'm sure that wasn't a pleasant shoot for all the actors involved in that. Because I'm sure it takes a lot of patience, and they probably only had one shot to do all that stuff correctly, and if they fucked it up, it probably took a whole lot of time to do that. But very, very fun. I love that one too, and I was surprised at how long it went because, like I said, that stuff isn't easy. Shooting underwater is not fun. It's not easy, but they did it excellent. And the gunshots, the chandeliers, playing the piano, the bartender behind. I think they all deserve, honorary Oscars just for that performance. So funny. Um, was there anything so like for me, I would probably say that my favorite part was the gunfight, because everyone got their little moment. So like you have, I said earlier about Chocolate Moose picking up the cannon, shooting out the window. You had Nick playing tic tac toe with the German who's shooting, the X's through the window and everything. Just a lot of fun. And I like gunplay in movies, so that was one of the things that I was fond of when I was a kid. But the fact that they added in that comedic aspect as well too, and Duquois, who just can't fucking do anything right, is hiding in plain sight in front of the mirror as they're shooting. Just I like that funny stuff. And I was just having such a good time, and everyone had their shining moment in that, or at least comedic moment during that scene. So that was really fun for me. Um, was there anything that kind of felt stale, or maybe you were shocked at in regards to the type of humor that was being used? Maybe that you might have thought was funny before, but like, this is borderline inappropriate, if not 100% inappropriate.
Um, I don't think there's anything that was like inappropriate. I mean, they had the rift on the blaxploitation movies and stuff like that, and there were a few jokes that I'm sure if you listen to them closer, there was some, racial undertone. But it was 1981. Like this was not. It doesn't need to be PC because it didn't need to be PC then. Not that I don't respect people in general and hold to the ideals of the day now, but um, for what it is, it's funny. There are going to be people that don't like it because of that, and that's fine. It was a nice nostalgic romp of a movie I'd never seen that I should have seen, and I'm happy I've seen. But there weren't any things that like ugh. Some of the early spy scenes were a little. This you're pulling the taffy here. You're not just getting it done. You're stretching it out a little, but that's okay. It's 1981, and everything was stretched out at that point, so it's okay. But but yeah, no. Overall, I liked it. I liked it a lot, and there wasn't any scene that I would like fast forward through in the future.
Okay. What about movie comparisons? Obviously, the easy comparisons you alluded to it earlier. You got Airplane, Police Squad, the Naked Gun series. Would you say that? And I'm not sure where you rank those movies, but this against Airplane, what would you say is, in your preference, the better?
So let me answer both questions in succession. Initially, I didn't compare this to Airplane or Naked Gun. Initially, I thought Blazing Saddles, right?
Okay.
I thought Mel Brooks because I'm more of a Mel fan. I'm Young Frankenstein, History of the World, Blazing Saddles. I love me some Mel Brooks. Spaceballs. I love me some Mel Brooks. So this felt very much into that. It was not as chaotic as Airplane or Naked Gun, in my opinion. Right? It was a little more together, but I might take this over Airplane for the chaotic factor. But I think they're both great. I haven't watched this enough, and I haven't watched Airplane in a very long time to say, oh, one or the other. But I appreciate the vein. I appreciate that they're at that level. And if you look at the list of movies that this group has done, and I know I keep coming back to, oh, it was the group, but it really was like their list is so impressive that I've got to say that the consistency of the list is the thing that impresses me the most with the Hot Shots, Naked Gun, Police Squad, all that.
Was Hot Shots the same group of people?
Yeah.
Oh, wow. Okay. Yeah. God, I love
same
that movie
director for Hot Shots and Hot Shots Part Duel.
Fantastic.
But Later in their career, they got disappointing with movies like Mafia, um,
Mm.
which was another Leslie Nielsen movie, and the later scary movies. But 80s cult classic comedies, um, I think this fits in so perfect.
Yeah, I agree. And, for making those comparisons, I immediately thought of Naked Gun. And I didn't really pay attention because back in the day, I never really paid attention to like the directors or writers or anything like that. But it was so reminiscent to me and that same vibe of Naked Gun to where I'm like, yes, now I understand as to why I like this movie and why I liked all of those movies, really. But yeah, I would say like overall, I don't think there's anything that was inappropriate to me. I think the only thing that was really surprising is actually how current it's still, it still stands up to like these current times, like the humor, and they talk about, relevant things that, isn't as dated as someone might think.
I thought you
So
were going to say all the butt stuff.
yeah. Well, no, I mean that's something too, like where I guess maybe because I wasn't exposed to that type of humor as much when I was little, because keep in mind, I saw this on WFLD network television, so I didn't get those same pieces of humor because they cut a lot of that stuff out. But I mean,
They
the
cut out
fact
the anal intruder.
I would assume that they did because I don't
Mm.
remember it.
I wonder.
So
We got to get a copy of the edited version of this and see how much of it's taken out.
yeah. Well, I'm pretty sure it was a fairly short movie with all the commercials put into it and everything at the time. But
Yeah, you got 37 minutes of Top
yeah,
Secret on WFLD. I love it.
yeah. But no, it was freaking great. I mean, really, is there anything that did not work for you overall?
If Val Kilmer's the worst part for me of the singing portion of it, that it was so poorly dubbed,
Mhm.
like
Yeah.
with that I thought that it was a pre-recording. Like if there's anything that I'm like, well, that could have been done better, that like they could have got a better sound guy. But overall, they skimped on the sound and paid everybody else, and I'm about it. I was about it.
Yeah, I can't really find like a weak point in this movie. And really, if I did, I'm gonna oversee it. And I'm just gonna like completely like, yeah, it's fine. I'm completely fine with it. So, Mark, can you do this all day?
I hold back on the can I do this all day only because I've only seen this movie once. So I'm unaware of how it replays for me and how I catch it again. But I will say this, if I ever own a cow, I will put boots on it. With that being said, Dan, can you do this movie all day?
100% yes, I can do this all day. And that is one of those things where we got the prime hitters of why I can do a movie all day is you have nostalgia, you have the entertaining aspect of it, it's funny. And you know what? I appreciate the performances in the movie too. And Val Kilmer, even though he is not necessarily the main focal point or reason why you're laughing, the fact that this dude is singing, dancing, really playing the part and giving his 100%. And maybe there's a little bit of nostalgia factor because I like the fact that Val Kilmer was a not A-list performance of this, but an incredible performance. And I just miss seeing him in movies. I think that is one of the reasons why I can watch this all day. When you bring that nostalgia factor in there, reminds me of my childhood and the countless laughs, even though it was edited on WFLD prior to Fox. Um, I am laughing still to this day while I watch this movie, and it is something that I will have my kids watch, um, maybe in the future. So yes, absolutely.
Well, the 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 podcasters have spoken. I think the only thing left is to ask the listeners what you think. So hit us up. ICDT all day on Twitter. I can do this all day podcast on Instagram. Can you do Top Secret all day? Do you love Nick Rivers? Are you going to go surfing with a shotgun? Let us know. If there's any other movies that we missed with this, anything in this same pipeline that you think, man, if they like this, they'd really love this, send it our way. We'll watch it, we'll talk about it, and you'll get to hear about it.
Thank you all so much for listening. We enjoy doing this for you all, and without you, we probably would still do it anyways, but we're going to do it for you also. But until next time, I'm Dan, the Part-Time Avenger. That's Mark, the Resident Jedi. And until next time, keep it top secret.
Like, subscribe, but don't tell anybody because it's top secret.